What's going on, YouTube? Nathan back here with another video presentation. I hope everyone's off to a great week so far. I hope everyone's staying safe. But before I get into the video, be sure to leave a thumbs up. Consider hitting that subscribe button. In this video today, I have recorded this a couple times and made mistakes, not really confident in my approach to the video. But I felt it was real necessary to make this video. I felt compelled to make it. And what I want to talk about is what you're seeing in particularly in the sports realm, the sports world. With the recent deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many other unarmed African American men and women, what you're seeing is products, shows, just things really that we know as a society, we know is wrong. But I think, and I feel like in some certain instances we have become a little too sensitive to certain things. For example, with Uncle Ben's rice, removing that product off the shelves, and Jemima pancake syrup, even though we all know the back history behind that, but that's another subject for another video. Really, where I'm getting at is sports and politics have officially blended together. We know that politics, we always deal with some type of politics, no matter what situation we're in, whether it's school, work, it does not matter. Politics always gets in the way of certain things or finds a way to get involved. And if you've been paying attention, Washington Redskins, just an NFL team located in Washington D.C. As of Monday, they're going to retire the name and the logo. Let me just say this for the record. I am for the name change of the team, even though I feel as though that this should have been done years ago. Now, you're not going to hear me say, "Thank you, Dan Snyder. Congratulations, it's about time." Dan Snyder, when he first became owner, which was back in 1999, he should have taken the initiative to change the name. Now, we know that the Redskins were created in the early 1930s. I think his name was George Marshall. I think that's his name, former team owner. He just had his, not too long ago, I think he just had his statue removed. But we know what that term means. The owners then and the owners now know what that means. But let me just say this, and I think it's real important to say this. We know that the owners of the NFL have each other's backs. We know that they look out for one another, no matter what happens. We know, for example, Mr. Richardson. I say his name is Jerry Richardson, former owner of the Carolina Panthers. Virtually, we knew who the type of person he was. But again, because of the society we live in, you have to take you. Let me put it like this: you have to think of the consequences. And for Mr. Jerry Richardson. You know, his statue that was in front of their stadium in Carolina was removed. But what I mean is when the owners look out for each other. Let me give you an example. Excuse me. When the Cleveland Browns, before they became the Baltimore Ravens in 1996, former owner of the Cleveland Browns, Art Modell, who I personally believe is being kept out of the Hall of Fame for several reasons. And one, I think, is because of him moving the Browns from the city of Cleveland to the city of Baltimore, even though there is a owner or former owner by the name of Mr. Irsay, Jim Irsay. Is it Robert Irsay? Well, either of the Irsay family, okay, moved the Baltimore Colts, for all my old school football fans, moved the team in the middle of a cold winter night from Baltimore to Indianapolis because the city of Baltimore didn't want to give him a new stadium. At the time, we all know Memorial Stadium was old, it was getting a little older, and he just wanted to own something of his own. Most people would accept that. In the Cleveland Browns case at the time, we know that Art Modell was having some money problems. We knew that, virtually he wanted a new stadium because the stadium that he was in at the time, the Municipal Stadium in Cleveland, that thing was old. That thing was virtually kept together with gum and tape. He knew it. The city knew it. Hell, I would even say the state of Ohio knew about it. But yet and still, you gave the Cleveland Cavaliers a new stadium, and you gave the Cleveland Indians a new stadium, Jacobs Field, and I cannot think of the Cavaliers' name of their stadium on the top of my head. I apologize. But you know what I'm talking about. They get a new basketball arena, a new baseball field. But at the time, the Cleveland Browns couldn't get one. So that was just an essential, that was for Art Modell to just leave. But the point I'm trying to make is that owners knew that Art Modell had financial problems, and they still looked out for him. That's what owners do now, and they still do it. They look out for each other, and I respect that. It's a buddy system. But in this case, I have not heard any owner say, "Hey, I think you should change this name." I haven't heard one owner. And you guys can let me know if I'm wrong, but I haven't heard any owner talk about, yes, this needs to be changed. Because the one thing I want to point out is that just because you're going to change the name of the team, in this case, the Washington Redskins, are going to change the name of their team, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get fan support. And understand where I'm going to go at in this video. Just listen. Since 1999, Dan Snyder has owned the Washington Redskins. I have it written down here. His overall record is a 71 win percent. From 1999 to as of last season, 2019, his record is a 142, 199, 142 wins, 199 losses, and 1 tie. Within that time span, he has made the playoffs 5 times. Now, let's just call it what it is. When your team stinks, I get it. You're disappointed. You feel like, oh my gosh, they could get the best players out there. If they could do the right thing, they could be better. But the one thing that, in my personal opinion, that has killed sports, and I mean, when I mean kill sports, it's not the same. Understand what I'm saying. If you look, and I'm just going to point out here, the last really winning season in the past, I'm going to say the last 10 years, from 2010 till now, which is 2020, was when they went 10-6 in 2012, and then they went 9-7 in 2015. What I'm trying to get at is, even though I'm happy that they're going to change the name, they're not going to get the same fan support. Because one thing about fans today, sports fans have become very casual. Meaning, when your team is winning, I'll give you an example. No, let me continue that. When your team's winning, everybody's at the arena, at the baseball, at baseball games, football games, hockey arena. It doesn't matter. Fans are supporting you when you're winning. When your team sucks, everyone is nowhere to be found. I'll give you an example. When LeBron James was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, #1 overall pick back in 2003, let's just call it what it is. LeBron James came in at 18 years old, out of high school, and literally had the expectation of turning that team around. We know that, let's just call this, he changed the culture in Cleveland. After the years of, Larry Nance Sr., Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, Craig Elo, and those boys, especially in the 90s. After that period, the Cleveland Cavaliers were a little disappointing. When a guy like LeBron James comes in, yes, he was the best high school player, at the time, and he came out of a good draft class. But he changed the culture in Cleveland. Even though, as a basketball fan, it still puzzles me how he carried that team to the NBA Finals and lost to the Spurs. But when he left in 2010 to go to the Miami Heat, he was vilified. He was seen as traitor. He was seen as somebody who didn't care about the team. He was just seen as somebody just ring chasing. Even though I feel as though that he and Cleveland could have worked it out, LeBron James, for the most part, let's just call it what it is. I was going to say, that's another subject for another video. But LeBron James on the court, off the court, does a lot for his community. He is just, when you're young, you make decisions, particularly as an athlete, you're going to make decisions what's best for you and your family. And what's best also, what you feel is best going forward. Now, you look at LeBron James, you go, what, people burning his jerseys, he's, he's a father, he's a husband, all that stuff like that. LeBron James has done nothing criminal. He hasn't done anything wrong. And then, he goes to the Miami Heat. He wins back-to-back championships. And you do say to yourself, wow, that could have been as if you're a Cavalier fan. No, the first time he left, you could have said, oh, okay, well, I get it. That could have been us. When he left and came back to Cleveland, I felt LeBron definitely he was more mature, and I think he had some unfinished business. Whether you look at a guy like Kevin Durant, who I think has been just completely vilified. Listen, let's just call it what it is. He and Russell Westbrook were never going to win a championship together. There should be no argument with that. Two egos, particularly let's just call it what it is. Russell Westbrook has an ego. Russell Westbrook is going to do Russell Westbrook things. And it's not for the team, it's for himself. Think about it. They had their chance. They had their shot. They lost in Game 7 against Golden State. When this was the year before Durant left. There are some times where you have to say, you know what, I have to trust the others. And in this case, the two of them we're not going to win a championship together. Plain and simple. Kevin Durant We could sit and personally, I think this is going to be more attached to his legacy more than anything. He left to go to the team that beat him, that he had a chance to beat, but lost in 7 games to. But in the same realm, LeBron James doesn't get that type of argument. But that's a whole other subject for another video. But what I'm getting at is that look at, for example, look at the Golden State Warriors, okay? Before Steph Curry was drafted, they had Baron Davis, Steven Jackson, Mark Jackson was the head coach. Golden State had some good teams. But if you look at them now, I don't, that area, the Oakland area, shout out to people in Oakland, is a good sports town. However, I've noticed that those fans were a little too spoiled, especially with the Warriors. And I think when you lose your best 2 players, actually, with Durant leaving, and then your best 2 players getting injured, Curry and Klay Thompson, my question is, where was fan support? When you look at, I'm going to go back to the Redskins, but the point I'm trying to make is that when your team's winning, everyone has the jerseys, foam fingers, everybody is on your wagon. When your team is disappointing, they're falling apart, it's almost like asking, where's Waldo? When you look at a team like the Redskins, I'm going to use last season as an example. And this is why I said, just because the changing of the name is good, it doesn't mean that it's going to guarantee. Sure, the team name matters being changed, but I'm talking about how the team performs on the field. That's what people are going to look at more than just the name of the team, which, I mean, you should look at both of them, but there are going to be some people that are going to look at how the team performs on the field. Like last season, I think it's very, very sad that you had a couple, and it's well documented, articles where they were selling tickets as low as $5 for a Redskin home game. And what's real sad, particularly when it comes to like their rivals, the Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Eagles, you have more of their fans in your own stadium. What does that say about your fan support? Like I said, when your team wins, everyone's on the wagon. But when your team's losing, where's Waldo? Give you an example. Now, the Baltimore Orioles, as an Oriole fan, pretty much, I would say the last time I saw the Orioles win was 2014 when they won the American League East. 1997 was their last really winning season. When I look back at that season now, I was young. I was 3 years old. But they get screwed out of the American League Championship game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google the Jeffrey Myers fan interference catch. It was fan interference against the Yankees. But we're not going to get into that. That's another video for another day. Really, for about 14 seasons, I've had to, really from that time now, even now, up until last year, the Orioles are just a disappointing ball club. And a lot of that you can point to ownership, poor development of players, and the same thing. There's just there is, and don't misconstrue what I'm saying. There is a core fan support, but it's the casual sports fans that irritate me, because they are essentially the ones that have set this tone again, and I'll keep saying it, when your team's winning, support them. When your team is garbage, don't go to any of the games. Now, I do agree that your team should be better, but you should always stick by your team thick and thin. I'll give you another example. Matt Chapman is a third baseman for the Oakland Athletics. We know that the Oakland Athletics are probably one of the most storied franchises in baseball. They've had Hall of Famers, Ricky Henderson, Jimmy Fox, Lefty Grove. The list goes on and on. Since 1901, I will say this. I feel like this winning percentage is kind of doesn't deserve it. They have won. It's a compelled 49%. I rounded it up. It was like 40.489. I'm going to round up to 49%. They have won a total of 9,028 games and lost 9,452 games. Oakland Athletics play at the Coliseum. They've been playing at that stadium, I believe, since the late 60s. I want to say like 1968. And it is time for a new stadium. Again, that stadium is old. It's being held by, like I used earlier in the video about the Cleveland Browns. It's being held by tape and glue. And, we know that the city of Oakland, and we all know this, it is time for a new stadium. But they're not willing to do that. And I think a lot of it has to do with politics. And I also too think it's, at the end of the day, they're just not, the owners probably looking at like, I'm not getting any support here. They talked about moving them from Oakland to San Jose. And it was disappointing. Again, Oakland just lost the Raiders. They're going to go to Las Vegas. And it's disappointing to see that if you care about your teams so much, why don't you support them? Why don't you stick by your team through thick and thin? Don't be at a World Series or Super Bowl parade and say, "Oh, I'm team Cavs, team Warriors, team Patriots, or team Capitals." But when the team sucks, oh my gosh, that team is just terrible. That team. I'm not going to a Cavs game. I'm not going to lie. The Orioles just lost. Well, not like this past season. Well, this past season, the Orioles were tremendously bad. I'm not going to lie. As an Oriole fan, I had to turn some of the games off because it was very disappointing to see how the team looked. But at the end of the day, this is still my team. I'm going to support them no matter what. Even the year before, they lost 115 games. You can't justify that as an Oriole fan. And I'm not going to lie. Seeing some of them crowds at Camden Yards was very disappointing. It was very, very hurtful to see Camden Yards virtually empty. But when they won the division 7 seasons ago, Camden Yards was packed to the brim. Everybody was on that wagon. But when the Orioles were disappointing the next year, when they won 89 games, and then it became 65, then 47, and so you see the crowds dwindle. Pretty much what I'm getting at in this video is that support your teams. Look at for example, look at the Seattle area, the Northeast. Look at Seattle. The state of Seattle has the Mariners. Well, they had the Supersonics. Now they're not Oklahoma City. They have the Seahawks. And they have the Seattle Storm, which is WNBA team. That city supports their franchises. Even though you could make a case and say Portland is close, but no, Seattle needs their own basketball team. Period. But at the end of the day, I personally feel, and this is just my opinion, I'm just going to say it in this video, the owner felt as though he claimed that he wanted a new stadium, and the people of Seattle were not going to give it to him. And even though I would say the support for the Supersonics wasn't that great, let's just call it what it is. It wasn't that great. It compelled him to move the team from Seattle to Oklahoma City, plain and simple. And the same thing too, you look at Oklahoma City, great fan base. They have stuck by their team. When Russell Westbrook was there, even though he led them to first round exits, the team, that those fans stuck by them no matter what. And the point that, like I've said, is that you need to support your teams no matter what. The casual fan today, and it's comfortable for me to say this, have essentially changed the culture of what it is to be a fan. And let's call this. I've had conversations with people who don't know sports. They say they know sports, but it's very disappointing. Just look at, for example, look at the tailgating for football games. Like, for example, Bills Mafia, the Buffalo Bills. Those fans are crazy. But they support their team. And I get it. There are times where you just go like, damn, I can't support this team. But you should always support your team no matter what. I know I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but I'm drilling it so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. Because the Washington Redskins are going to change the name of their team, that's great. But once it changes the name of the team, what's that fan support going to look like? If they go 6-10, or if they go 3-13, or 5-11, as opposed to 13-3, 11-5, or 14-2, that matters, and we have to take that into consideration. Because, like I said, when your team is winning, everybody's on the wagon. When your team stinks, where's Waldo? I mean, and we know that Dan Snyder, has made questionable decisions, to keep Bruce Allen after last season. Let's just call it what it is. Bruce Allen should have been fired. Especially after that statement he had made where he said the culture is fantastic, when in reality the culture never existed. Your team was, you as a general manager, your team was trash. You essentially you franchise tagged a quarterback that should have been paid. But if you look at it now, you kind of go like, oh my gosh, like he, like almost like $90 million guaranteed. And they weren't going to pay him. I don't know why. But I guess what I'm just trying to say in this video is that regardless of a name change or when you move or not, support your teams. Plain and simple. Look at the Phoenix Suns. Last almost 9-8 seasons. I know the Suns stink. I know, but they if you look at that team, it's led by Devin Booker. You have a great head coach in Monty Williams, who I believe personally should still be with the New Orleans Pelicans. But that's another subject for another video. You see the team growing. And I know that recently I think it was last season, there was like a town hall meeting with the owner and like the fans of the Suns. And the owner, I guess whoever he was really contemplating of moving the team or wanting another stadium. And one of the ladies, like she was an older lady, excuse me, virtually said, instead of you worrying about a new stadium, you need to find a way to make this team better. And she's right. The stadium that they're playing is To me, it looks like it's in relative good condition. But let's just call it what it is. We have people that are in these positions, like ownership or GMs, that don't know what the hell they're doing with these teams. Then they just see green dot. They just see the green. They see the money. And when you look at the Green Bay Packers, and I like this. I wish more NFL teams did more teams, sports did this, where the fans have a share in the team's stake. That's, to me, that's awesome. I like that because I think you can be more involved in different things like that. But I really felt it was necessary to make this video. Excuse me. I know I probably sound like a broken record. I know for some this probably won't make sense, but at the end of the day, support your team. You know, Matt Chapman, I said his name earlier, but you know, a recent article just came out and he said virtually that, well, we're doing good without fans, because I mean, he virtually said that when they're home, no one comes out to support their games, and that's sad. That says a lot. But if the Oakland Athletics were like 80, let's say they're like 80 and 40 something. I'm just giving off a random number. If they were like first place in their division, which is the American League West, the Coliseum would be packed to the brim. And they made the wild card berth last year. I know they made the division series, I believe it was maybe 2-3 seasons ago. So, I mean, not every team's going to be perfect. You know, you're not going to be like the Golden State Warriors where you have won back-to-back, you won 3 championships in 5 years. Okay, that's great. You know, no team, you're going to have teams that are going to have growing pains. You're going to go through tough times. You're going to go through a period where, you go like, damn, are they going to win a championship? I mean, just look at the Cleveland Indians. Yeah, I know, and I've seen it already, where, the Indians have been talking about removing. They removed the logo. I think it was last season. They weren't going to use it. Now, they've been thinking about changing the name of their team, which I agree with. As well as the Braves. But I'm going to make another video about that because, again, like I said, I think in our society today, we have become just a little too sensitive to certain things. Now, when you think about it, you have to think about the history. You have to think about what impact it has on something or someone. So, I mean, I am for, like, again, the Redskins changing their name, the Indians changing their name. I know someone, I think it was somebody, wrote an article saying that the Texas Rangers need to change their name. I mean, if you guys, you get where I'm getting at. It's almost as kind of like where we clean up one thing, but then something or someone goes, oh, I need to clean this up too. It's like there's a cleanup in aisle 4, or there's another cleanup in aisle 10. And that's really pretty much what I wanted to get in this video, honestly. It's just the past couple weeks, honestly, just seeing the reactions, just seeing the, stuff like this happening. I'm happy for it. But I wanted to look at it from a different perspective. I'm not talking about the name of the team. I'm talking about the fan support. When the Washington Redskins change their name to whatever it is, what's that fan support going to look like? That matters. Team name, all for it. Needs to be changed, like I stated. It's the fan support. I mean, just not, and it's not just with what you're seeing with the Redskins, you're seeing it, like, for example, I'll just say the WNBA. You know, it's virtually a tax write-off for the NBA. And it's disappointing to see that the WNBA doesn't get support, particularly I hate and and I know that, and I'm going to say this for another video, but I just want to just get at it's about fan support. When you have people like I use when you see, and you can look for yourself. Go, the Washington Redskins. Those tickets were sold for less than $5, and that stadium. I think it was against the Eagles. That stadium was half full. That's bad. That's embarrassing. If you play for that team in Washington, or if you're a fan of that team, if you're even in the front office, you're sitting there and you're going, damn. Wow. What's the point of even having this team here? If this is the support we get. But, well, I guess I can go ahead and say I should continue my point with the WNBA. But when you look at the WNBA, the same thing. It's fan support. Look at those. If you just look, and a lot of those arenas aren't filled now. Like the Mystics moved from the Verizon Center, or Capital One Arena, when they moved from there to a smaller stadium, smaller arena, you see the fan support obviously there for the Mystics. It's there. It honestly and truthfully, there is fan support there. It's just not. How can I put it? It's just there's just no interest. When you look at it, you would say to yourself, how come there's not more women supporting it? Even though that there should be more. We know this. We know that. There is gender, and there is a wage gap. We know that they will not be paid on the same level as LeBron James or Chris Paul. We know this. And as a fan, I like the WNBA. I really do. I'm generally interested to see that it's more to see how they play the game of basketball. And for the most part, it is enjoyable to see. You have girls that are like, I'd say from, let's just say 10 to when they're in high school. They want to be in the same position like Skylar Diggins, Elena Della Dawn, Brittany Griner. They want to be in the WNBA. We know this. But, I would ask, when I go to like a sports store, whether it's online, I don't really see any WNBA jerseys. I have to go on the website, like Dick's Sporting Goods, for example, or I'll just say like Target, Walmart, Macy's, JCPenney's. They sell little sports stuff, and you don't see any of their stuff in those stores. I mean, that's let's just call it what it is. And the WNBA honestly, truthfully, should be more supported. But if you have women that particularly that don't play basketball, if they're not interested in it, what makes you think other people are interested in it? That's just, I'm just speaking the facts. We can't, that can't be denied. And I'm not saying that, the WNBA is boring. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that fan support matters. If you have a group of women that don't watch it, what makes you think other people want to watch it? Like I just said, what makes you think other people want to watch it? So, I think, again, in this whole video, which is now almost 40 minutes. It's, again, you stick by your teams no matter what. And go out here and support these teams, man. You know, that matters. Because, and it's documented, players, over the years have talked about how fans in certain cities, they loved them. They hated the fans. It's all over the place. Um, like, for example, when Kevin Durant went back to Oklahoma City, I thought that was disrespectful. Here he was second overall pick out of Texas, drafted by the Supersonics. We knew that team wasn't going to stay there much longer. When he got to Oklahoma City, he got into the NBA Finals. Okay, Kevin Durant did his thing in Oklahoma City. Like I said earlier, him and Russell Westbrook were never going to win a championship, plain and simple. And because he leaves and does what's best for Kevin Durant, he's vilified for that. Even though, as a fan, you enjoyed going to see him in your arena. But because he leaves to play for another team, now you hate him, then you burn his jersey, now you don't want to do anything, now you don't want to support him. But before, when he was on your team, oh man, Kevin Durant fan, all that. And that's why and again, the casual sports fan is essentially the tone setters for the way you should be a fan for sports. And I'm here to tell you, support these teams no matter what happens. Whether they suck, whether they win, no matter what. Support these teams. Don't be going on another team in bandwagon. If you're a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't care. You're a fan of them. But when the Pittsburgh Steelers lose, don't join the Patriots bandwagon. Don't go join the Ravens wagon. Stick by the Steelers no matter what. Plain and simple. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. I have been thinking about doing a video. I know I already touched on it with the WNBA, but I think it's really, really necessary to make a video about where I kind of feel about the WNBA. I just think what you're seeing as well with that. And I'm not talking about, I have been thinking about doing a video with the owner for the Atlanta Dream, her statements regarding the Black Lives Matter, how she doesn't support it, and you have people that have been calling really for her job. But really just the WNBA as a whole. I may not do another video on that. But again, I am for the name the name change for Redskins. The name of that team should have been changed, and I'm glad it's being changed. Even though I feel like it should have been changed years ago, but I'm happy for that for Washington. You look at it's a storied franchise. They've had good ball players like Doug Williams, and so many others. Daryl Green, if I'm saying his name right, Champ Bailey, RG3. They've had tremendous talent, and I think that team deserves fan support. Again, but no matter, like I said, no matter what the name of your team is, you should always stick by that team no matter what. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.